What is up, you guys? Fight Fiend Migs here, coming at you with a new video. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and check it out as always. If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel. If you are coming back, welcome back, and thank you for coming back. Before I get to the topic of the video, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at FightFiendMigs. You can also check me out on FightNetRadio.com with Lee Harnish and Andrew Lapachet. And lastly, here on YouTube, Fight Fiend Migs. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good shit, if you please. Alrighty. Oh, and before I forget, you might have noticed I'm wearing this clean ass white tee, and you're probably wondering to yourself, like, damn, I wonder where he got that clean ass white tee. Well, I'll tell you, I got it on freshcleantees.com. They are buttery soft. They're slightly fitted, but they're super comfortable. They're premium tees. Freshcleantees.com. If you decide to give them a try, make sure to use the code MIGS15 at checkout, and you get 15% off your total purchase. How about that? How about that? Catch me aside. How about that? Feel free to give them a try. If you are a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy, I highly suggest them. So check that out and get yourself some clean ass tees. All right, cool. On to the topic of the video. UFC Fight Night 174 fight predictions, I should say. This is main evented by Robert Whittaker taking on Darren Till. Depending on how stacked a fight card is, sometimes I like to do a fight prediction for the whole main card. This fight card isn't exactly stacked per se. It's kind of top heavy. On top of the fact that there are 7 fights on the main card. Holy fuck, 7 fights. So I sure as hell I'm not going to predict all of them, because why? That will make this video like a fucking hour and a half. And I mean, I know you don't like long videos. I don't like making long videos. So let's not do that shit. All right. So, yeah. UFC Fight Night 174. I'm only going to predict 2 fights here. It's going to be the main event, Robert Whittaker and Darren Till, and the co-main event, which is Mauricio Shogun Rua and Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, or Lil Nog as he is affectionately called. So there is a saying. I have my laptop here to my left. There is a saying here in the fight game, or I should say here, like I'm part of it, but there's a saying in the fight game that you're only as good as your last fight. Now, when it comes to MMA, I'm not sure if that's necessarily accurate, because MMA is so unpredictable, and quite frankly, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So, I don't want to take a look at just the fighter's last fight, but rather their last 3 fights to gauge how this next one is going to come out. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. We're going to start first with the co-main event, which is Mauricio Shogun Rua versus Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. As a matter of fact, this is the 3rd time they're going to fight, because these guys fought twice before, once in 2015 and once in 2005. Now you're probably wondering, damn, 2005? Yeah, these guys are up there. If I'm not mistaken, let's see here. Mauricio is like 38, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's 38. And Lil Nog is 44. So these guys have been around for quite a bit. You know, these guys are veterans, and they got a lot of miles on the odometer. Now, if you guys have the UFC Fight Pass, or I'm sure you could find it on YouTube, check out their first fight from Pride Critical Countdown back in 2005. Holy fuck. That is probably on my top 5 most favorite fucking fights, because they stole the show. They hella stole the show. There was some other really good fights on that same card, but man, Lil Nog and Shogun won from Pride back in 2005. Fuck. I highly. Now, this was a killer ass fight, and this was in Japan. There's Pride, of course, back in the day. There's a pretty good chance both these guys were on the juice. Something, because these guys were just going and had fucking hella cardio. Maybe they were on something. Who the fuck knows? I mean, I'm just saying, you know, these guys looked fantastic in a fight, and they don't look like that anymore. Obviously, they're a lot older, so, you know, they're not going to look like that any longer. But I highly suggest checking out. I don't give a flying fuck if they were on the juice or not. That fight was badass. I highly suggest it. Okay, so taking a look at these guys' last 3 fights, we're going to start first with Shogun. He had a draw with Paul Craig, a win over Tyson Pedro, and a loss over Anthony Smith. So he's kind of all over the fucking place here. Only one went the distance, which was the draw against Paul Craig. The 2 before were losses. Well, I'm sorry, not losses. Were short TKO. His win over Pedro was a TKO by punches, and then his loss to Anthony Smith. Now, moving on over to Rogerio. Let's see here. His last loss was against Ryan, or his last fight was against Ryan Spann, where he lost by TKO. The one before that one was against Sam Alvey, which was a victory by TKO. And then the Ryan Bader fight back in 2016. So he's kind of been in and out of the octagon. He's kind of had some long breaks. Again, he's fucking 44 at this point, so it's not like he's going to be able to keep a schedule the way the younger guys can. Now, I kind of thought about this one for a good minute because I was thinking, Rogerio, his last three fights did not go the distance. Two of them were losses. One was a KO loss, one was a TKO loss. Now, Mauricio Shogun Rua has been through some fucking wars. I mean, through some fucking wars. That fight with Dan Henderson, that's in the fight wing of the UFC Hall of Fame. His fight with Brandon Vera. His first fight with Lil Nog. He's had some tough fucking wars and some pretty bad knockouts. Now, that being said, so has Rogerio. This one, I kind of flip-flop back and forth a couple of times, considering that Rogerio's last three fights did not go the distance and two of them were losses. I've kind of, Rogerio's, Lil Nog is 44 now. I don't think he could take a punch the way he used to. This fight, I feel, is kind of like who can connect first, who can land, who can hurt the other guy first is going to end up winning. Considering how much of an ass whooping Rogerio has gotten throughout his fucking career. And then, of course, Mauricio Shogun. It's kind of weird because Shogun has had some battles, as I said, yet somehow I still feel like his chin is still pretty much intact. I think he can take a shot better than Rogerio can, than Little Nog can. And I think that is going to be Little Nog's downfall here. I just don't think he can take a punch anymore. I do think that Mauricio Shogun can still take a punch. This one, I'm going to have to go with Shogun by TKO. It's probably going to be early. I suspect it's going to be, these guys are going to come out like guns blazing in the first round, and Shogun's going to come out with a victory by TKO. First round victory. That one's going to go to Shogun. All right. So moving on to the fight that I'm hella excited about. Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. I don't think this fight is getting the hype that it should, because I'm pretty excited about this fight. I really am. Darren Till was supposed to be the next big thing. At welterweight, of course. Everyone thought he was just going to fucking steamroll over Tyron Woodley, which didn't end up happening. I'll get to that in a little bit. But everyone thought he was the next big thing. And realistically, I think he was. I believed it. I believed the hype. He was whooping people's asses, and I was like, oh shit. The way he took out fucking Cerrone, and I was like, man, the way he, that tough decision victory over Wonder Boy. I was like, man, this guy, maybe this guy's for real. This guy's a real deal. So I kind of started believing the hype, and then it came crashing down with Woodley. But I'm pretty excited about this one. And then of course Robert Whittaker, who had just lost his UFC middleweight title. Once I just lost, it was last year, but that was his most recent fight. So he's only one fight removed from being the number one middleweight in the fucking world. So it's not like he's exactly. And by the way, he had not lost in the middleweight division prior to that fight with Israel Adesanya. So that guy was damn near perfect at middleweight. So as I mentioned, we're going to take a look at these guys' last three fights. We're going to start first with the former UFC middleweight champion, Robert Whittaker. His last fight was the aforementioned loss to Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight title. And two fights before that were both to the same guy, Yoel Romero. One was a unanimous decision victory, and the other was a split decision victory. So looking at Robert Whittaker's last three fights, a loss in his last one by TKO, or KO actually, and then two decision wins over Yoel Romero. Hopping over to Darren Till, he's kind of, all right, so two of his last three fights were losses. It was the submission loss to Tyron Woodley, which was for the UFC welterweight title. The KO loss to Jorge Masvidal, and then the win over Kelvin Gastelum. The win over Kelvin Gastelum was his most recent one. So, all right, two of those fights did not go the distance. One did for Darren Till, and then for Robert Whittaker, it was the opposite. One of them did not go the distance, and two of them did. All right, so looking at this fight here, Darren Till's last fight with Kelvin Gastelum wasn't exactly the most exciting fight. I kind of feel that there's another saying in the fight game: win this one and look good on the next one. So I feel that Darren Till in that fight with Calvin Gastelum was kind of with his back up against the wall. He was coming off of two losses: the submission loss to Tyron Woodley, and then the TKO or KO loss to Masvidal. So he kind of had his back up against the wall. He didn't want to come out and risk too much in the fight with Calvin Gastelum, which was actually his middleweight debut. Or his UFC middleweight debut, because he actually fought a middleweight years before. So I think that's one of the reasons why that fight with Gastelum wasn't exactly very exciting. Darren Till was coming out here just kind of get the job done, try to get the victory, and it was actually a split decision. So it was pretty close. One judge actually to give it to Gastelum, so it was a pretty close call, but he got the victory. Okay, so considering that he's got himself back into the win column, hopping back over to Robert Whittaker here. Whittaker in those two fights, well, it's bad enough that he got his ass knocked out by Israel, because that was a pretty bad one. Because he got fucked up pretty bad. He got rocked at the end of that first round, didn't really recover, and then got finished in the second round. That was bad. It's one thing to lose your title to a decision or in a decision, but when you get knocked the fuck out like that, it was pretty bad. Add to that those two fights with Yoel Romero prior to that went the distance. Those were some tough ass fucking fights. Yoel Romero is no joke. He's already 40 something, but that guy's a freak. We all know that guy's a fucking freak of nature, and those fights were difficult as hell for Whittaker. I feel like those last three fights, his three most recent ones, the two decision wins over Yoel Romero and the loss to Israel, I think that put a lot of mileage on him. I don't want to say that he's shot by any stretch, because he's like 28 or anything like that. So I'm not going to go that extreme. But those at his like I'm not sure if he's the same Robert Whittaker after those three fights, honestly, because they were tough as fuck. Those two fights with Yoel took a lot out of him, and then that KO loss to Israel. That I feel like that put like way more mileage. He left a piece of himself in that octagon each one of those fights, and I'm not sure if we're going to see the same Robert Whittaker. That being said, you guys can already see where I'm going here. I feel that Darren Till has a little bit more in the gas tank. He hasn't got his ass handed to him anywhere near as bad. Yes, he has lost, of course. Yes, he has suffered a KO loss, but he's able to still take a punch. I don't think that he's shot by any stretch. I feel like he just doesn't have as much or as many miles on that chin odometer that Whittaker has. So this one, I did kind of flip flop back and forth a couple of times. As a matter of fact, I do have the ESPN app and UFC Fight Pass, so I went back and I rewatched their last three fights. This one, I'm gonna have to go with Darren Till. Now, considering that Darren Till's last fight was kind of like I said, a kind of a slightly boring split decision win. He wasn't really risking anything. It's that saying that win this one, look good on the next one. Well, this one's the next one. So I suspect that he's going to actually come out here kind of guns blazing, and he's going to try to really drive the point home, because he's fighting a former champion. If he beats, and not just a former champion, the most recent former champion, which is Robert Whittaker. If he beats Whittaker, that could put him in a position of a title shot, the same way that Gilbert Burns defeating Tyron Woodley put him in the spot against Usman. Now, we all know that didn't happen, of course, because Gilbert tested positive for COVID, and the whole shit. And as a matter of fact, they weren't even going to go with him to begin with. As far as a title shot, they were going to go with Masvidal to begin with, but Masvidal kind of held out for a little bit more money, which we all know the story there. But the point is that victory for Gilbert Burns over Woodley got him in that spot for a title shot. I suspect that a win over Whittaker is going to put Till in that exact same spot. He's a big fucking middleweight. Him against either the winner of Costa or Israel would be a bad fucking scrap. Like, that one is gonna be so damn good. Like I'm trying to slowly pump the brakes on the Darren Till like hype train, because I was on that shit like big time. Like I said earlier, I totally thought he was gonna take over the welterweight division. I thought he was gonna beat Tyron Woodley. It didn't turn out that way. So I kind of was like, okay, maybe this guy needs to kind of, take it easy a little bit, because he was on the fast lane. Let's be honest here. I was whooping people's asses, and he was on that fast lane to the welterweight title until he got a reality check. Well, definitely hope that doesn't happen this time. He's kind of taking it little by little, and this victory keep in mind when he beat Gastelum, Gastelum was like ranked number 4 in the UFC middleweight, so that put him up there pretty quickly. Defeating Robert Whittaker, the last champion, would probably put him in that number 1 spot. If I'm not mistaken, Robert Whittaker is actually still ranked the number 1 at middleweight in the UFC. So that one might actually get him a title shot, I think. So without rambling any further, this one I'm going to go with Darren Till. Now, how it's going to happen, that one is a little bit tougher. I do think that Till is going to come out throwing some heavy shots. Um, I don't I don't see Robert Whittaker being able to take Till's shot. I think Robert now. I was rewatching this fight with Whittaker and fucking Israel, and one of the mistakes that I feel that Robert Whittaker made was that he pretty much fought that fight like he was a challenger. He was attacking Israel. He was coming at him, and really all Israel had to do was like back up with his reach and catch him, and that's pretty much what he fucking did. So I don't know. I don't think that Robert is going to come out that exact same way. Like I said, I'm not sure if we're going to have the same Robert Whittaker as before, but I don't think it's going to come out the exact same way and attack Till the way he did with Israel and fight like a challenger. I don't think that's going to happen, but even still, I suspect that Till is going to be able to catch him. He's going to be able to land that left hand. I don't think the fight's going to go the distance. I feel like somewhere maybe in the third round, in like early third round, I would say. I know that might be too specific, but I like being specific. Even if I'm wrong with how it happens, as long as I get the fighter who wins right, I'm good with that. But I like being a little bit more specific. I'm suspecting maybe like the third round, early third round, Darren Till should be able to catch Whittaker, and he should be able to take him out. So this one I'm going to go with Darren Till by TKO third round. All right. So not to make this. Oh, and by the way, as far as the odds go, this is a pretty close one. Darren Till is, as far as I can tell here on covers.com, he's plus 100, and Robert Whittaker is actually minus 118. So Whittaker is the favorite, even coming off a most recent loss, and Darren Till is the underdog, even with the victory. Okay, so just to recap here, as far as the co-main event goes, Mauricio Shogun Hua I think, is going to defeat Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. What did I say? I think it was the first round, right? I don't think it's going to be the first round. Okay. I want to make sure I remember that shit. And then, of course, the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. I think Darren Till is going to take it. It's going to be early third round. It's going to be TKO. I suspect Darren Till is most likely going to emerge the victor and probably the next middleweight title contender. So, yeah. Not to keep rambling any further, guys, because I don't like to make long videos. Please let me know what you guys think on those predictions. Who you guys think is going to win? Like I said, I'm trying not to ride the Darren Till hype train, but I kind of am back on there. If you guys enjoyed my video, please like, by all means, share, subscribe. If you guys didn't, let me know why, please. I am trying to make these videos better. Thank you for checking them out. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights this weekend. It's going to be Saturday. I'm recording this on a Monday. I'm going to post it on Tuesday, and the fights are going to be this Saturday from Fight Island or Yaz Island, UFC Fight Night 174, Whittaker and Till. So thank you once more for checking out my video, guys. Have yourselves a very good night, day, morning, whenever it is you're watching this, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.